Good afternoon. Welcome to today's Professional Series webcast from the MSU Alumni Association. My name is Lisa Parker, and I am the Director of Alumni Career and Business Services. Excited to bring you today's topic on franchising entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurial initiatives are a big deal in the state of Michigan and, of course, nationally. And there are many ways to start businesses. Some choose to go it alone, some choose to co-found a company with another, and many others are choosing franchising. So I thought it would be handy to invite a great Spartan and a great friend to the MSU Alumni Association, Lew Dotterer, to present for us today. Lew has a Ph.D. that he earned from Michigan State in Adult Learning and Organizational Development in '89, and since that time has been working extensively in organizational development and in change management initiatives relating to the corporate sector and relating to individuals. And that journey has brought him to his recent role where he actually serves as a franchise consultant of sorts. So I wanted Spartan Nation to have an objective look at the franchise industry, who it works for, who it doesn't work for, what some of the nuances are, and I invited Lew to be here to do that for us today. So without further ado, I would like to invite Lew to the microphone and let you know you are welcome to pose questions to Lew throughout this cast in the chat box that you see on your left. The bar to enter that information is on the very lower left-hand side. So thank you very much, and Lew.
Hi, Lisa. Thank you so very much. I really appreciate the opportunity today to have a chance to talk with the Spartan Nation about something that's real important for me in regards to franchising. This is a newer role for me, and it's a fun role to be able to work with individuals who are in the midst of career transition and who are willing to consider self-employment opportunities, including franchising, as a viable option while they do either a job search or while they are perhaps thinking about ways to invest funds, different kinds of options along those lines, which we will explore a little bit here this afternoon. One of the things I do want to mention right off the bat is that I am a business owner. I do have a franchise that has been awarded to me through the Entrepreneur Source, and so I am spending full time pretty much working with individuals who are in career transition. As you mentioned, Lisa, my background is in counseling, psychology, adult learning, and so it is not in sales. And so one of the things that I really appreciate about having a chance to be a business coach is to work with individuals to provide them information so that they can make decisions that can affect their life in a positive way. And that's really what I want to talk about a little bit today, is the role of coach as it pertains to working with people in the franchising world. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and look at some of the slides that we've prepared here. To provide a context for this discussion, I do think it's important to think about some of the wonderful characteristics of people who are entrepreneurial in nature, and I've listed just a few of the characteristics and have another slide as such as well. Attention to detail, balanced optimism. I think that being optimistic is critical in the role of an entrepreneur, as well as when I say a fear of mediocrity, it's either a fear or a lack of tolerance for mediocrity. I've not heard of too many mediocre entrepreneurs as such, and so to really strive to be excellent, to strive to do one's best, to be hardworking, creative, independent, and at the same time have a healthy sense of self, which to me means I'm aware of strengths, but I'm also aware of what I might be a quart low in, if you will, and the importance of being able to build on the strengths, realizing my humanness is a part of this endeavor as well. Also self-confident, a sense of urgency in terms of wanting to make something happen as soon as possible, and not wanting to necessarily put it off unless there are really good reasons to do so. But given some of these characteristics of the entrepreneur, we will see some similar tendencies as we talk about people who are interested in franchising, which we'll get into in just a little bit. A couple of pieces of information here. In terms of self-sufficiency, which I see relates very well to being interested in franchising, 75% of the adult population, when asked, say that they are desiring to be self-sufficient rather than necessarily working for someone else. However, we also find that 5% of the population actually make that happen, which to me means that there are a lot of other individuals who are talking about being self-sufficient, but haven't gotten to that point of either turning the corner or feeling comfortable or confident in making that change. And so that's something that I deal with every day as a coach, is to work with people who are on that path of becoming more self-sufficient potentially. Self-employment business options, one of the things, and Lisa, you talked about this early on, some people have an idea, they build a business from scratch, they do a wonderful job oftentimes in making that happen. Other individuals are more comfortable in acquiring an existing business. Sometimes there's some stress with that, only in terms of thinking about, are the books in order, do I have customers, am I in a good location, those kinds of things, and still a sense of oftentimes feeling like I'm on my own. And then another option is considering the world of franchising, where I'm really focusing on, I'm not in this by myself. I'm working with other individuals to be successful. A couple of other facts pertaining to franchising is that we find that 42% of new independent businesses do fail, or the failures, I should say, happen within the first 2 years. 80% of all new businesses fail within the first 5 years, which is a very sobering statistic. In the same time frame, what we find is that 75% of franchises succeed, and we'll talk about what the difference is here in just a moment. A couple of other facts. 5,000 different franchises in the United States at this point, starting with, from animal care to yard work and everything in between, basically. We have right now right around 828,000 franchise establishments around the country. 75 different industries are represented by franchises. 1 in 7 businesses in the United States is a franchise, and we have over 17 million jobs are due to franchises. So this is a fairly significant process we're seeing around the country. Sometimes we might focus on 1 or 2 industries and think that that makes up franchising, but we might be surprised at how many different industries are actually represented in the world of franchising. One of the points of view I like to keep in mind and encourage people that I talk with to also think about is that in a franchise you are in business for yourself but not by yourself. This might sound like a trite statement, but it really is significant. That sometimes, I know when I'm working in my business, I might be feeling like an island, but all I am is a call away from talking with somebody else who is also doing the same work, talk with another individual or a series of individuals on a regular basis, so that I can get answers to questions and I can continue to learn as I want and need to in order to be most effective. So I'm not by myself at all. Along with that, there's another saying: not every great chef should open a restaurant. And really to stop and think about, what does this mean and how does it pertain to franchising? I know I have seen, and perhaps many of you have also seen, individuals who have certain gifts, talents, and skills who, because of those skills and that knowledge, have been promoted to other roles within an organization where they don't succeed. And it's the same kind of thing in the franchising world. If I'm good at one part of the work that's needed to be done in the franchise, do I therefore open a business based on that sole strength? Without consideration for, in this case, the chef, who's going to be doing the advertising and the marketing? Who's going to be doing the paying the bills? Who's going to be doing, and you can name a lot of other tasks that need to be done, whereas the chef might get his or her sense of pride and esteem from preparing meals that others love. There are other parts of the job that also need to be done as well, and one of the things I like to do is to help remind people that if you're considering franchising at all, think about what kind of work would you want to be able to do. What is it that you might have a passion for, but what other work is necessary to be done to also experience success? And that to me is a question that I really want people to entertain and think very clearly about, because sometimes people do have a passion, they have something that they love, they want to start a business because of that. Sometimes they experience success, but a lot of times they get burdened and experience less than success because other parts of the job and work that needs to get done will not get done, unless they think of maybe adding to staff or something along those lines. Three basic roles that occur within any business, but we definitely see in the world of franchising. You have the role of being the entrepreneur, the dreamer, the visionary, if you will, in terms of the future. Where else are the opportunities that we have in the work that we do? Another role is that of manager, the one individual or the one role in which we deal with the issues, the challenges, the problems, and we're oftentimes focusing on how to solve those problems. And then we have the technician. We have the individual who's rolling up the sleeves and actually doing the work, whether it's cooking, whether it's doing the landscape, whether it is doing the grooming of the dog, whether it is cleaning the house, whatever the role might be. Those individuals who are doing that work are the technicians. And what I think is important is, if I'm considering franchising, to think about, where do I see myself? Do I see myself equally among the three roles? Do I see myself more as the manager of the tasks and the processes, more of an entrepreneur, or a combination of the three? And many times we can help an individual identify franchising opportunities based on what they see themselves doing, what they see themselves pertaining to their strengths and wanting to do. And so there's some flexibility here. Some individuals that I'm working with, they want to be the technician. They want to own the business. They want to be the technician. They basically want it to be, if you will, a business of one. They still find that they need maybe someone else to answer the phone, to help generate more business, to do the scheduling, but they like to roll up the sleeves and do the work, and that's where they experience the joy and the satisfaction. I do think it's a choice that a person has to work on your business rather than in it, and that again is another phrase that we talk about quite a bit with individuals, is to help people think about to not get as involved in the business potentially if they want to be more of the manager, the entrepreneur, if you will, because the more you get in the business, the more you might be inclined to do the technician part of the job. And again, there's nothing wrong with that, as long as there are other people who are also a part of the team in the franchise, for example, or in the business, who are looking in the future, who are dealing with the customer issues, who are dealing with how to generate more business, pay the bills, all of those kinds of things. A prototype that we oftentimes think of as it pertains to franchising is in regards to the order in which things are done, the predictability of what it is that we have to do. And it might be a routine that is established, and that's part of the strength for some individuals when considering franchising, is the predictability, how systemic the work is. You do A, B, and C, and then you do A, B, and C, and you keep doing that because that's the part of the business plan and the strategies to help be successful. Based on the business plan that has been generated, the templates that are shared to help an individual be successful, that if we're successful in one area, we can be successful in another part of the country if we do the same kinds of things. And that's really one of the strengths of franchising, I feel, is the ability to take a model that's been proven, and if I continue to do the same kinds of things the same way, there's a great chance that I also can be successful and effective. Along with that, to receive the training that is available, and that can be weeks of training ahead of time before I open a storefront, if I do have a actual facility and store, and the ongoing training that occurs afterwards. The advertising that is done perhaps on my behalf, as well as the marketing, maybe by the national office. And so again, that is perhaps not a strength that I possess, but others possess, and that's a part of the franchising opportunity. To have the name recognition. You can drive down any street And when you see businesses and you recognize the name because you've seen them not only in this city but another city and another city, that business and that recognition can either bring forth hopefully feelings of that's great, that's a good place to stop, I wanted to go there, or something along those lines. So the name recognition can be critical. I know that I work with a lot of franchises who are newer in their development, and the name recognition can still be there, but a lot of times they're also on a very high growth mode, and that can be a positive also. A part of that also in terms of franchises would entail looking at protected territories, and that can be a positive too, that in regards to the work that I do, I don't want someone necessarily within 2 miles of me doing the same kind of work, and so that's why so many franchises will have protected territories of 100,000 roofs or households, or whatever it might be. It depends on the franchise. One of the things I do like very much about the organization that I am a part of is that I can move and still be doing the work I'm doing. I work with people all over the country by telephone. I am able to help them find opportunities and business options all over North America and around the world. That's part of the fun for me. And so my protected territory, well, I really do have protected territory in the sense of not someone else is going to be right there within 2 miles of me, but we work with people all over the world, and so that's what makes it fun and enjoyable. Also, the whole process for franchising in terms of national accounts, that there are some franchises that have established working relationships with other organizations that exist all over the country or the world. And so sometimes there's that work relationship that because I'm a part of this franchise, I would be your go-to person to help with a certain issue or question that you might have. Let me stop here. I know I'm talking fast and talking about a lot of things. Anything that you have questions about, any things that you're interested in or curious about that I've talked about so far?
Lew, I imagine you're going to get to this a little bit further in the cast, but when we're talking about some of these, like you were talking about deciding whether or not you want to be the technician, or how much in the weeds you want to be, right. I experience a number of individuals who will say they want to be running the show, but they have a hard time staying out of the weeds when somebody else is actually there in that technician role. Do you have thoughts on how to determine what type of leader you're going to be in that situation, and if you've not owned a business?
That's a great question, and one of the things that I do as a business coach, when I work with an individual, I like to get a good idea in terms of a profile of who this person is, what their strengths are, what their natural abilities are, and how much of an inclination they have to get into the weeds, the details, if you will. And so we have a number of tools available to us that I think are really critical, and that's one of the things that separates us from some other organizations, is that we do take the time to help an individual understand themselves, their own style, their tendencies, what they would be inclined to do, using whether it's the DISC or a whole host of other tools available to us to really help an individual have a better sense of, again, those natural tendencies. And even though they might have the best intentions, what happens when they start paying attention to the detail and can't leave that alone, and how that has an impact potentially on people that they might be working with. I hope that helps, but we will talk about that a little bit more, Lisa.
Yes, and do you see Jake's question in our chat area?
When you say the franchise prototype is systemic, what do you mean? And what I mean by systemic is that from one organization, one franchise source to another. In other words, if I have a site in Des Moines, if I have a site in Lansing, it's going to have the same look. It's going to be, when I say systemic, it's going to be having a similarity, same kind of focus, if you will, a same kind of look. The thing with that, too, is that another part of systemic is that we will see that in a successful franchise, part of the business plan is to look at how one process has an impact on another process and another process. And looking at those dominoes, if you will, helps us to understand that if I have an impact, or if I make a change over here in terms of my franchise, my company, it might have an impact on over here on customer service. And so we have to also have a systems thinking approach to the work that we do. We need to really understand that if I make a simple change over here in the business plan and the templates, it might have a fairly dramatic impact on the customer, on the end user of the process. And so part of the understanding of a franchise is the business model is presented to me as a proven way of being successful and effective. If I think I know better, if I attempt to tamper with something that's part of the foundation, it could have a negative impact on the outcome. And so we have to go into this looking at things systemically. Sometimes we might think that an innocent change in terms of how where we get our fruits and vegetables, if we happen to be making food, might not have an impact, but you know what? It really could have an impact on the end user. Now you might say, well, some changes could have a real positive impact. Well, one of the things that we've learned, I think, is that as we look at the whole process of change in a business, if we pay attention to our strengths, if we pay attention to our knowledge that we've had for years, we have to be able to let go of our knowledge and really accept the insights that the organization that created the franchise have. We really need to recognize that they're doing this for a reason. Now it might mean that later on I might be able to add something, make some changes, but not to the base skeleton of the franchise. I hope that gets to the systemic issue, just the realization that a change in one part of the system could have an impact on another part of the system. So let's go ahead and look a little bit more at the franchise model. Again, for it to be, I think, an effective franchise, we have to be able to provide consistent value to our customers, employees, and any lenders that there might be. They're operated by people with appropriate skill levels, and what I mean by this point is that in a franchise, when we look at the different jobs that are involved in this specific organization, that people who have the skills are doing that work. And I don't know if you've ever seen an organization where people who might have a lot of other skills are not being tapped to use their skills, those additional skills, but they're asked to do some other work and they're not feeling fulfilled. What we want to do is to make sure that the people who have the certain skills are being asked to do those certain functions. And I think there's a better utilization, there's a better factor in terms of what our dollars are being spent towards, and we can experience more success. But it means knowing the strengths of the people you have working for you and then tapping those strengths as much as possible. Another part of the franchise model is when we say impeccable order, it's again understanding that we first do A and then B and then C because that works. It will also help provide some comfort for people that are our customers as well when they understand maybe that same kind of order that they're accustomed to. The work processes certainly are captured in any operations manual that might be provided us, and that is something that provides some assurance too, because once in a while, not once in a while, on a regular basis, franchises are awarded to people who have not necessarily had a significant background in that specific industry. But that doesn't mean they're not going to be successful. It just means that they need to really understand the reasons why we do things the way we do, and then to follow that process to a T, if you will. We can uniformly predict the service to customers. That's part of the franchise. There's a certain way that we can provide service to the customers, and we want to make sure that the customers receive that service because they're, again, used to it, or if we can help them become used to it, they'll hopefully return and be customers for a long time. That the color, the design, the appearance, the facility is very consistent. that we want to make sure that from one site to the next, that people know, I've just stepped into a specific organization. It's one I'm familiar with and one that I like. Some of the things that I like to have people think about, if they're at all considering a franchise, the self-employment world, some of the things that you can look at and think about for yourself would be things like, do I want to work out of my home, or do I want to work where there's a storefront? Do I want to work by myself, or do I want to have a staff of people working for me? And you can tell that with each of these answers, it helps figure out what kind of franchise do I need to be focusing on. There are certainly a number of franchises in which I have a home-based office, and I don't need to expend the money to lease or purchase a building. Others industries, obviously I need to have a storefront for the customers to come to. Along with that, there are over 70 industry options that franchising includes, and so there's a wide range of opportunities that we do have. Where do you want to live? I might be a resident of a certain state, but do I want to potentially think about making a move, whether it's because when my spouse retires, we want to move to a certain part of the country, and I want to continue this employment there, and where would that be? Not only part of the country, but just in terms of, do I want to be closer to water? Do I want to live on a golf course? What is it that, where do I want to live? Do I want to be an absentee owner? Do I want to invest in a franchise, in a business, but not have to manage it on a day-to-day basis? And therefore that would mean that I would have to hire someone to be the day-to-day manager. And is that something that I want? Maybe I see that as an investment opportunity, or semi-absenteeism. And so there we have options along those lines. Do I want to go into the workplace every day, or do I want to stop in 3 days a week and see how people are doing? Again, some franchises allow for that and oftentimes encourage that. Others, I need to be there every day because it's my business. Working with local customers or with people around the country and the world. And I talked about that a couple of minutes ago when I was describing my own specific work. I have, again, a great opportunity of working with people in Michigan as well as with people around the country in North America. I have some customers, some clients in Toronto, in other parts of Canada, as well as, again, people who are looking for franchise opportunities in different parts of the country. In Toronto, for example, I have an individual who is in Toronto who is looking for franchises to open in Dubai. And so we're helping this individual find the options that she's looking for. So again, that flexibility is something that was important to me. Another thing, the return on investment. What are we striving for here? And not only in terms of, if I invest so much money in the franchise, when can I expect to get that investment back? But the other part of this for me, and this is something that people who are thinking of retirement but not stopping work are also paying attention to, and that is, how quickly do I start to see money coming into the organization? If I roll over a 401k and use that to help finance the franchise, when do I start to see the money come in so that I can perhaps refill or start a new 401k or whatever it might be? So that ROI is a very important consideration, and again, it varies from franchise to franchise. Some you will have almost a turnkey process that when you turn the key on, when you turn the key, the door opens and we start getting business, and therefore we start seeing some money. In other situations, it takes several weeks or months to actually establish oneself in the community or where I'm working for people to rely on me and come to think of me as a viable resource. And therefore, I have to have more money available that I can rely on for myself before thinking about generating the money in my own income, if you will. So those are some of the criteria that, again, as a coach, I definitely want to sit down and talk with the individual about. Many times they haven't thought about some of these options, and it's important that they do, because they have more choices than oftentimes what they think of when they consider the world of franchising. I also, as a coach, spend some definite important time focusing on these points. For example, in understanding how is the esteem of the individual with whom I'm talking to. And the reason I like to focus on this, I know from my years of working as a consultant for change management that one thing that happens in times of change, and many organizations have experienced change, people oftentimes lose sight of their goodness. And it's critical that people have a chance to recharge those batteries, start to see themselves in the positive light again. In some organizations, they again have lost sight of what the skills, what the talents, and what's the knowledge that I possess, and how can I use that. Either because they've gotten into a routine and they're only using few skills, or else they are just in a mode where they're really not using the knowledge and skills that they possess. And so they lose sight of their goodness, and that again can be a challenge for someone who is even thinking about franchising. In fact, they might not think about franchising because the esteem is not there. Ties in a little bit with the next point, your comfort zone. Are you comfortable with newness, with things that are different, with things that you've not experienced before? Or do you have a fairly shrunken perspective in terms of comfort zone? And it again varies. And the person who is pretty comfortable with a wide variety of options and ways of doing things, that can be a plus as we explore the world of franchising. Are you a risk taker? And that probably goes without saying. There are some people who that's definitely something. They are a risk taker. They want to try new things. They're calculated risk takers, and that's real important. Other individuals, they're not quite so much the risk taker. And that deals with the issue of some people, as we start talking about franchising, they say, you know what, Lou, I really need a paycheck every 2 weeks, and I don't know if that's going to happen in the franchise. And in reality's sake, in some franchises, it takes a while to establish that routine of getting monies on a regular basis, very honestly. And so sometimes then the payoff can be very positive down the road, but can a person wait to go down the road? And so if I'm not a risk taker, it could be a very comfortable decision if I've made one to become and get into the world of franchising. So I as a coach want the person to really think that through and make what's the best decision for them. I do listen for and look for the level of confidence and competence that a person expresses. Again, if they are highly confident in themselves and in their successes, as well as what they've learned from their failures in life and their lessons learned, and are they competent? And do they see themselves having competence in several different areas? Then I think that person has a great opportunity in dealing with self-employment in the world of franchising. Let's add to that. There is a separate reality as such. Quote, a man of knowledge lives by acting, not by thinking about acting. And that's one thing that to me is real important with franchising. I can't just rely on my thoughts. I really have to convert those thoughts to action. And people who are more inclined to be successful in franchising, at least from my perspective, are those that can act. And I don't mean shoot from the hip. I mean really be thoughtful, but at the same time act, take action, and make things happen. Another quote from Michael Gerber, who has done a tremendous amount of work in the area of franchising, is comfort makes cowards of us all. One of the things here is that if I'm really comfortable in what I'm doing, why would I want to change that? And along with that, why would I want to do something in which I don't know what the outcome is going to be? And so therefore, if I'm comfortable, I certainly might not think about franchising much. And we sometimes, however, get comfortable with things that are not so good. And that might sound strange, but sometimes we get comfortable with, and I've heard people say this when I worked in different corporate arenas, people would say, you know, if I can just make it another 9 years of this, and then I can retire. Well, whether they're comfortable or not, they're tolerating that. And it's sad for me to think that an individual would settle for existing when there's so much that could go on in terms of living. And there's a risk, I understand, but there's going to be a real plus side to that as well. So I do think of Gerber's comments on a very regular basis as I'm talking with people. As we've said, we have to suspend our brilliance. And at times, no matter what our knowledge base is, to be successful in franchising, we really need to be able to let go of our old knowledge, ways of doing things, sometimes the logic that we have as well and how to tackle a certain problem, and we need to be open to understanding the proven system that's before us if we are moving forward with a franchise. They have found what works. Again, Ray Kroc, who at McDonald's said, you know, when we think about what we created the hamburger, cheeseburger, French fries, and a shake. Everything else that you see on the menu was created by one of our franchisees. And so creativity can certainly be part of a franchise. I don't want to diminish that likelihood, but we need to use the model that's been shown to be successful. The other point that I like to keep in mind, and I remind people of, is that you don't buy a franchise, the franchise is awarded to you. That little shift in mindset is pretty significant. I think some people do feel like they can buy the franchise, and in some cases, I think some of the people who are in the business in other organizations, not so much the entrepreneur source, but they also believe that you can buy a franchise. And what I like to remind the potential candidates is, when you are talking with the franchisor, they're trying to understand you and your strengths, and I want you to understand them and their strengths to look for fit, but it's a mutual process. And I do want to encourage people to keep that in mind if you are ever considering a franchise, is to see it as it's a two-way street, just like an interview or a series of interviews. You're getting to know them as they are getting to know you. And we need to see if there's a good fit, because we want it to be a win-win. I know that I work with people who they want a new opportunity. Some of the individuals I do have a chance to talk with have been dehired. They actually no longer have employment, sometimes because of a merger, and the company going forward no longer needs 5 people doing this job, and so there are several people who potentially are looking at other opportunities. Along with that, other people who have recently retired, but they don't want to stop working. They want to work maybe in another capacity where they're able to have more fun, tap different skills, be a part of using their passions, for example. Other individuals want their retirement, their savings, to perhaps work and make some money for them. Along with that, they want to invest in a business, whether it's for themselves, for their children, grandchildren. I'm seeing more of a trend of that as well, that people are investing in working with their grandkids or their children to be a startup for the children, but also then that the parent has a chance to be productive and do some more work as well. What I like to do is to find out what's motivating someone to look for an opportunity right now. Why now? Is it because of what's gone on in your organization? Is it because you have a desire to change focus, and you really have found that, you know, I am confident and competent and I want to go off and do this on my own? Why not now, as such? What are some common motivators? People want to be fulfilled. They want to make a difference. They have skills, knowledge, they want it to be tapped, they want to be fully utilized along those lines, and perhaps in the environment in which they find themselves now, they haven't been fully tapped. I quickly think about some of the work that the Gallup Corporation has done, and other companies also have done research on level of engagement in the workplace. And some people are disengaged and actively disengaged. And again, I really would like those people to also find what would be the passion, what would be the excitement and enthusiasm for them to be fully engaged. Whether it's a franchise or what, I would like them to find opportunities as well. And again, like I said early on, A franchise is not the right answer for everybody, but if people go through a process similar to what I'm describing today and ask themselves a series of questions or work with someone, perhaps they can find what that next opportunity could be for them. Some people, another motivator is the additional income, whether it's part-time or full-time. Some franchises certainly can be done on a part-time basis, or if I'm a semi-absent owner. Other people, again, there's a need, want for employment or different employment. They just are no longer feeling a level of excitement and enthusiasm over their current situation. Maybe they've tried a lot of ways to approach their supervisor or the powers that be to help them get into another role, haven't met with the success that they would like, and so therefore they maybe need to look elsewhere for that opportunity. Again, we talk about the level of disengagement. Other people want to spend more time with family, with friends, and they in time might find that a franchise can help them do that. Now I would say, and there's a little point here, that when you start a new business, even a franchise, it takes time. And it takes a lot of time to really get all the foundation laid as needed. And so I don't think it early on necessarily one can go to part-time work in a full-time effort. It takes a little while to make that happen realistically. But along with that, spending time with family and friends, spending time with other interests, hobbies, passions that people have, and having fun. That might, again, sound trite, and I risk saying it, but I do believe that when you find something that is enjoyable, that is helping you meet some of your other goals, that you can be excited about that. As a business coach, I really find that my goal is to help a person get to a point of clarity. And what I mean by that is, as we discuss, as we talk about options, because I have a chance as part of the Entrepreneur Source, I connect with about 300 franchises nationally. And so I help people connect to those opportunities depending on what their interests and goals are. And at some point in the conversations, it takes several, I'd look for one of three responses from the individual. At some point, the person might, well, I don't know if I've ever heard anyone say eureka, but anyway, the whole point of, now I know what I want to do. That as I've talked with maybe the franchisors, as I've talked with other people who are doing the work, I now know that's what I want and I'd like to do it as soon as I can. The second option would be, I really want to do this, whatever this option is, but I can't do it right now. I need to wait 9 months or 2 years until I can I qualify for the retirement health benefit, or whatever it might be. And so, but they know, they have a clearer picture of what they want to do, and they know when they can do that. The third option I'm interested in receiving, if it's what the person's really feeling, is, I don't think this is for me, or I don't think franchising is for me. I just realized I need to get that check every 2 weeks, or again, whatever it might be. I really appreciate when a person, even if we've gone through several weeks of meetings and that sort of thing, if they've gotten to that point of clarity, that's useful for them. They've acquired the knowledge they need in order to be clear in terms of, I need to find another position within a corporate environment. And in some instances, I might be able to help someone by connecting them to a recruiter or whatever it might be. We oftentimes work together along those lines. So, again, my goal, help people get to that point of clarity. Let me stop. Before I go on, I know I've changed slides, but let me just take a breath and see any questions, or has this triggered any other thoughts for people up to this point?
I see John typing. What opportunities are there for military veterans?
Excellent question. In fact, many of the franchises that I have a chance to work with are offering great opportunities for veterans, and in terms of whether it be discounts in terms of the franchise fees that are typically part of the process, where those are either waived or they're reduced significantly. There's a lot of work being done by many of the franchises to help veterans secure opportunities in business arenas where they would want to be, in parts of the country where they want to be, and many franchises are making those options available. Same kind of thing in terms of with women and minorities. There are a lot of opportunities that are being made available, again, through discounts, etc., of franchise fees to make sure that all people have a chance to start, work with a business, work with a franchise that's going to help the person be successful and to help the organization be successful. So I appreciate the question in terms, John, in terms of the veterans. It's definitely something that's there, and I really think that there's a lot of opportunities out there that I'm aware of and I continue to learn more about as I work with at least the companies that I have a chance to partner with on a daily basis. I see another question. How do we research or shop for a franchise to know which one is right for us? Greg, that's a good question. One of the things you can get online with, and almost every company has a website, and many of them will have a link to, if you want to learn more, if you're considering a franchise as such. Another thing, again, since I don't sell anything, if one of the things that I offer is to work with me, since I don't charge for my services. And so I can also help clear out some of the extra stuff so that we can really laser focus more on what it is you would like, and to help get in front of you then some options that exist. But again, many companies, if you want to do this on your own and if you have the time for that, many companies through their website will make it available for you to learn more about the franchising opportunities that exist. Just as a plug, I also... Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Lisa.
Well, I have a question that'll take us in an entirely different direction, so go ahead and finish your thought.
Oh. Okay, I'm just thinking that, again, that's part of the fun that I have, and anything, again, that I could do to be of help, Greg, to you, with anyone else, just to put you in touch with different opportunities, as well as to learn about yourself, to know what your passions and interests might be, could be something that I could do, or someone who is in a coach role. Go ahead, Lisa.
I have a question, actually, about when the franchise that you're associated with or could potentially be associated with goes through a big brand change, and how you can maybe be able to, for example, McDonald's used to have all these playhouses and now they're a cafe. How does that play out with when you're in the franchise business? Can you tell ahead of time of how much cost might be associated with brand changes, and how much input you as a franchise owner would have when a brand gets ready to change?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great question, Lisa. I think what I'm finding is that there's a lot of variability between franchises. It's not uniform. There are some companies that they very much stay focused on what the franchisees are thinking. The people who have been awarded the franchises, if we made this decision, what would be the impact on you? What would be the impact on the customers that you serve? Other franchises are more inclined to say, this is what we're going to do by this point in time, and this is the support we will provide you in helping you make that shift. Whether it's new proprietary software, whether it's a new process. Again, a lot of franchises don't want to make dramatic changes because unless they've really tested it to see what's the impact going to be on us, because that affects our model. That's going back to that systemic issue we talked about earlier, is again, if we change one thing over here, if we get away from the play area and more of the cafe, what's going to be the impact? And so we test those kinds of things out. Again, my experience, Lisa, is that some franchises, some companies do a great job of keeping their franchisees in the loop. They have focus groups. They talk about all the options of why we are thinking of doing this, what would be the impact on you, and also let's get a period of time in which we can prepare for the changes that we anticipate. So we see that with some franchises, don't see that with all of them. And that's something that when you are part of a certain organization, you really want to have a voice. You want to make sure that even before you sign the paperwork, that you have a sense that this organization values participation, input, that they will provide you with the education and learning that you need, but they want you to be successful. And I think it's a great question to ask, Lisa, that you pose, is if I was a person who was considering a franchise, to find out from them, hey, if you make some major kinds of changes, how do you keep the franchisees in the loop, involved? How do you help us continue to be successful? And see how they respond.
And I have one more quick question, if you don't mind. I
Sure,
know that
absolutely.
some brands actually have corporate-owned and franchise-owned outlets, and I'm just curious if any thought needs to be given to that. Is there any upside or downside to an organization maybe having a higher or lower percentage of corporate-owned?
Great question. I think with those that have a significant number of corporate-owned, I would be, again, if I'm looking around, I would want to learn what are those sites doing differently than those that are franchisees, that have franchisees. How are they different? How are they the same? And if there's a high percentage of corporate-owned, are they wanting to when I say get rid of those, are they wanting those to become franchisees, or are they wanting to keep a block of those for the corporate arena? And then there are some organizations who we sometimes think are franchises, and they are really owned by the corporation as such. They aren't franchises, and I think Starbucks continues to be a model that oftentimes people think is a franchise, and it's my understanding it's not. But to your question again, Lisa, I would, if I'm looking, I would want to see, okay, I notice that you have 100 sites that are corporate owned. What's that about? Why are you having that degree? And find out, when I have a chance to talk with some of the franchisees of the other units, what's different, and do you feel that there's any difference between being a franchisee versus being part of the corporation? Let me just have a couple of other slides and move on then, even though we talk about people who are interested in franchising are again very similar to what we were talking about early on in terms of being entrepreneurial, but just a few of the points: being open-minded, creative, engaged, and they're ready for an adventure. They're ready to do something, and they have the confidence and competence for that adventure. Along with that, I mentioned tools, and as a coach, one of the things I like to use, whether it's the DISC, and hopefully all of you are familiar with that, it's a personal style survey. It's not personality, it's personal style, where we look at how people communicate as well as how they act in regards to setting goals in terms of communicating with others, how they build relationships as a strong member of a team, how they collect data, how, et cetera, and some of those style issues and differences, and they're all good. There's not a negative in the DISC unless it's something extreme as such, but the strength of the DISC tool is to help us understand personal style, which can help me as a coach understand how the potential franchisee deals with information and how they're going to deal with me, but also, again, how they might be in the world of being that manager, being the entrepreneur, being the technician. There are some personal styles that are much more inclined to be successful as the entrepreneur. And otherwise, if it's not my natural style, how can I stretch and learn to be that successful? Or do I have somebody else who is a part of my team who has that strength that I maybe don't? Another tool that we use at the Entrepreneur Source is called the Franchise Match. It's a opportunity to go in, answer some questions that are posed to you online, and then you get up to 3 options in terms of franchises that we work with that seem to match some of how you've answered questions. This is something that it's a tool, no cost to you, in which you can go in and learn more about what some of your interests might bubble up in terms of some franchises in different parts of the country, and typically then a coach follows up just to see what other questions you might have. Tume is something it's tell us more about you, and what that is, it's a document that has been created that we ask people to complete. That it's similar to a resume, but what our 300 franchises, when I say our, we don't own them, but the 300 franchises that we do have a chance to work with on a regular basis, those franchises are accustomed to receiving information about potential franchisees. Once that franchisee has said, said, I'm interested in talking with company A, and then we send that 2A to company A after the person has completed it. But otherwise, it's confidential. No one else sees it, and only the companies that the person asks to have it sent to actually receive it. We have something called Start a Business Weekend. It's another tool. In fact, we have it's a virtual conference, and our next one is on July 25th through the 27th. The great thing about this is that at your computer, once you've registered and you would get a link to register, then you can go online to the Start a Business Weekend. It's basically set up on your computer like a convention. You can walk around the convention center. You can go to the auditorium where we have live presentations being made on a whole host of topics pertaining to franchising. Along with that, you can visit the vendors. We have typically 80 or 90 different franchises that you can stop in their booth. You can actually chat. You can talk with somebody who is there from that company, learning more about what it's like to be a part of that specific company. You can get information sent to you. All of that is something that can happen in this virtual conference. It's something that if any of you have an interest in getting the link, I would be glad to make that available to Lisa. Get your involvement there, participate as much as you want. Again, there's no cost for that. We also use a couple of tools called AIM and FAST. These are webinar-based educational programs that can help a person who maybe wants to learn more about the world of franchising, and we've just scratched the surface here today. And you can go through those courses. AIM and FAST do have a fee attached to them, and you could learn more about those, and I would be glad to give you more information about those. We also have a tool called Lew 2.0. It's basically a SWOT analysis for yourself. You maybe have been a part of SWOT analysis for different departments or companies that you've worked. This one is basically where you look at your own strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, and what might get in the way of you reaching the goal that you might have as it pertains to a franchise. But it's something, again, one-pager, something you complete, no charge for that. It's a tool that I use in helping me get to know the people that I work with. And then one of the keys that's critical for my success as a coach is to better understand what your goals or what the individual goals are in their life. And not only do I understand, again, what work they've done, but what do they want to accomplish going forward as it pertains to income, lifestyle, wealth, and equity. And when we look at those four sets of goals, if people, as they talk with me about those goals, then what I can do is to look at, again, some of the 300 franchises we work with and see which ones would be the best vehicles to help a person get to those goals. And that's part of the benefit I, as a coach, can bring to the table, is my understanding of those franchises and what would help you get to those goals, and maybe the quickest or most effectively, and while you still have some fun doing it. But I wanted just to call your attention to several tools that are available to me as a coach to use in working with an individual who has decided to start a quest of thinking about franchising as a viable option. Basically, there are four buckets of understanding, and I'm just aware of the time, so I want to wrap up here. The buckets of understanding are the career. Where have you been? What have you enjoyed the most and the least? Why are you looking for a change now? What is it you want to achieve? And there's where we talk about the goals, the ILWI goals, and also learn more about you as an individual, your family, kinds of interests as well, and how that will play into the decisions that you make. Again, I as a coach can ask the questions to get that understanding that will help me. Just wanted to call your attention, there are a variety of ways that if financing is needed to help you in terms of being able to have a franchise awarded to you, that there are a wide range of options available. And what I like to do is, I have several people that I work with that this is all they do. They're experts in this area, and I want to make sure that I can put the candidate in touch with one of those sources. End goal. I want to help people be successful, and also find the time that they want to spend either alone, with family, others, doing that which is most important to them. There's a big difference, in my opinion, between living and existing. I want to help people live life to the fullest. That's real important to me, and I think to many individuals as well. A quote that I've used for years: a ship in the harbor is safe, but that's not what ships are built for. How do we get out of maybe being safe And can we take a risk? And sometimes looking at franchising is a risk, but it is one that can have big payoffs too for ourselves. And then another little quote that I use a lot, INNW, I credit that to someone named Hillel the Elder that was alive a couple of thousand years ago, and that stands for if not now, when. And when a person is on the cusp of thinking about franchising, if not now, when? When else could we do it? There. I'm done, but I haven't allowed much time for questions. I would definitely ask if there are any more questions. If you want to contact me, certainly there's some information that can help you do that, and also some suggested readings that I have found useful as I've helped other individuals in the world of franchising. Any last questions here?
Excellent. Lew, I'm going to pop this back to your contact information.
Okay.
And let those of you who are here know that I will leave the webcast room open for the next few minutes so you can have a chance to go through and pull the contact information that you want. Lew, thank you so much for this presentation. You're an excellent Spartan. You do a lot to give to Spartan Nation. In fact, for those of you who enjoyed Lew's style, he will be presenting for us again in October, Lew, if you don't mind me saying so, on managing change.
Sure.
A big area of expertise for Lew, and Lew and I became acquainted when he was receiving notices on our professional series webcast months ago, not to present, but to offer up himself as a Spartan if there was anything that we needed help with, would want to collaborate on in order to help other Spartans. And I invite the rest of you to do the same. If there's something specific that you feel you are an expert in, or you would like to help see other Spartans know how to improve or do better, please reach out to me. Again, my name is Lisa Parker, and I'm the Director of Alumni Career and Business Services, and we are ground zero for Spartans Helping Spartans. So thank you very much, Lew, and thank you to those of you on the cast, and we will look for you in July. Our two webcasts in July. The first one will be excelling at those grad placement exams. And then the second feature will be for managing the immigration processes for corporations and individuals. On that note, thank you and have a great day.
Thanks a lot.